Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everyone? It's Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan. And I tell you, Adam, spring has sprung. It's in the air. The weather is real nice. It's going to be in the 80s all week. And I think that has spawned a phenomenon in the Delaware Valley. And we're gonna talk about that a little bit later. Spring fever might be around the Delaware Valley, and I'll explain a little bit of that more as we go on in the show. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the Nick Sirianni press conference. I said a lot of interesting things. Probably the most normal. I know the bar was low, but definitely the most normal press conference that Nick Sirianni has had. It was an interesting one. And, of course, rookie camp has ended, and we'll go through a little bit of what we might have heard about rookie camp in general. And it should be a pretty – and running backs. We'll talk a little bit about running backs.
Positional preview. Yeah,
preview positions.
What we do is each offseason we start a positional preview. We really turn the thing upside down. We go over stuff that we've even talked about at running back, stuff that we know, stuff they learned after the draft. Rookie camp a little bit from what you and I had heard, but we'll start with running back, and we'll take a deep dive because they've got a lot of them on the roster, and this is probably the most diverse set of running backs that they've had because they all seem to do something different. So we'll get into that.
Well, it's a good segue. If people haven't caught it yet, last week we had Brian Westbrook on with us for ITB TV. I kind of like how we've been doing some, usually we like to tease our guests, but lately we're just dropping them and saying, hey, watch this, check out who we got. Mark Schlereth, Brian Westbrook. Nobody knew it was coming, and we kind of had a cool reaction to that. People were like, wow, Brian Westbrook back on ITB. And it came, he's a legend, and it came out of his mouth that he felt this was the most complete running back stable that the Eagles have had in quite a while, probably since their Super Bowl team. They have a lot to offer in different varieties. And it's one of the few, actually on this team, it's not going to be that few. Usually it's few, but for this team and this summer, you're going to see some pretty good competitions at training camp once everybody gets in here. Rookie camp's over. It'll probably be a while, Adam, right, before we really see the full team because I don't know how many guys are really going to show up for the voluntary OTAs. So I think the mandatory camp, I believe, is mid-June.
Yeah.
So we got a couple of weeks before we're going to get some juicy storylines because people are at camp. So,
but we're going to have them. But we're actually going to set it up.
We
don't even need to worry about that because we're doing these. We're doing these previews, as you said. The competition is so in depth this year. I'm not used to this with Eagles teams. Usually there's not a lot to talk about with these positions, but there's so much open at running back. There are a ton of roles open. Receiver, a ton of roles open. Right. Offensive line, depth, ton of roles open.
Mm-hmm. Certainly cornerback.
Corner, yes. Oh my God. Well, they actually, I think we know what it is because they don't have anybody.
Right.
And it's like safety, their backup roles open. So this is actually, you're absolutely right. This is the most competition. Oh, by the way, the theme of this show today is the Nick Sirianni competition. I do really wonder, is he taking this thing too far? We'll get into that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I had heard from one of the coaches with the Colts that he worked with that he's super big on it. He actually means it. He really does mean it.
It does seem sincere the way he says it.
He does, but is it over the top though? We'll get into that. We actually should have asked Mark Schlereth that. What does he think about that? From all his years as a former offensive lineman for the Broncos and a multi-Super Bowl winner. And also a guy that he actually did an Eagles game last year, the Browns game, the rain game in Cleveland. And what does he think about the competition and having it? And is it real? I mean, we'll get into that as well.
Well, Mark did drop a little hint about how he might have felt about Nick Sirianni when he closed the show with a rock, paper, scissors joke. So I don't know. Brian, we talked to Brian about it, B West, and you should check out what he had to say about Nick Sirianni. I thought that was pretty interesting too. And so hey, listen, there's a lot going on right now, and it kind of segues into what I want to start. The sun's out, whether it's spring fever or the phrase hope springs, hope springs optimistic or eternal.
Yes.
I sense this, and I don't know if you've listened to in the past week, a lot of sports talk radio or just read a lot of comments, but what I find kind of fascinating is that if you were probably to ask, right, about 10 Eagles fans on average, right after the season was over, how are you feeling about the Eagles, going into 2022? I think at least 7 or 8 are going to be like, not too good. You're worried about your starting franchise quarterback being out. You're worried about your owner. You're worried about your GM. You're drafting. the holes on the roster, the aging. I mean, you could just list off the things from 4, 11, and 1, right? Is that right? 4, no,
11 and 1.
Yeah, 4,
Yeah.
11, and 1. I swear the 17 is going to mess
Well,
me
it's
up.
funny. Every time I think I actually asked you, wait, what was that record? Was it 4? It doesn't seem to add up to 16, but
I have to do the math in my head, and whenever I have to do math, it's never a good thing. So,
exactly.
So the bottom line is, you talk to most people, and I think they're fair in it at the end of the year. And there just wasn't a lot of optimism that 2021 was going to be this great year, right? It was going to be a rebuild or whatever you want to call it. And a lot of teams, a lot of people would say, man, they'd be lucky if they win 6 or 7 or 8 games. And now we're in May, and really the only thing that's changed is the addition of a couple of good but not great free agents. They're guys who can hopefully hold the fort down at certain positions. And then they had a draft, and I know people like Devontae Smith, but Adam, all last week, and I'm not saying everybody, but I heard a strong enough sentiment from either comments on our message board or even people calling Sports Talk Radio. And it was like, I think the Eagles are going to be a lot better than people think. This team is actually going to be pretty good. Or Jalen Hurts, I think he's the best or second best quarterback in the division already. He's better than Daniel Jones. He's going to be better than Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, it's like, I don't know other than time. I don't know what happened from the first week of January, end of the season till now that has made a segment, I don't know how big it really is, a faction of the public all of a sudden turn around and think that the franchise is doing great. I even heard some guy call up and say, I think calling up, he said, you know what, the Eagles are in a really good spot. I mean, he said, I'm really optimistic about them. They're in a good spot. And I thought, he didn't elaborate on it, but I thought, man, if the Eagles are in a good spot, what does that make like the Chiefs or the Bucks or like, the Chargers or Justin Herbert?
Yeah, let me ask you this, because it is out there and I'm aware of it. Okay, this is the NFL's worst division. It still is bad. Okay, Dallas will be better than last year because Dak Prescott's back.
Right.
We don't know about Washington yet with Ryan Fitzpatrick. Historically, he's not going to finish the season as a starter. Just not going to happen one way or the other. They didn't even draft anybody, which is absurd. The Giants with Daniel Jones, more interceptions than touchdown passes, but he's got upside.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't put it together yet. They had an interesting offseason. They should be better than last year.
Definitely.
Quite frankly, though, it is the division's up for grabs. I just don't think the Eagles are as talented as the other rosters. Now, what would it take for them to even be 500? Let me throw this back at you. What would it take for 500? They can't be technically 500. There's 17 games, but
correct.
What would it take for them to have 8 wins this season?
All right. Number one, first and foremost, they're not a deep team, so they have to be not just healthier than they've been the last few years, because that's another low bar, but they've got to be healthier than they have to be in the top third of the NFL as far as health, because they're not deep at linebacker. They're certainly not deep at corner. They're not deep at safety. They've got decent depth on the offensive line, although it was challenged last year. Not deep at quarterback. If Jalen Hurts is their quarterback this year and he gets hurt, I guess Joe Flacco's a pretty good veteran. I'm not trying to bash him.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good fill-in starter.
But you almost have to change the offense around probably a little bit. Yep. Not necessarily deep at wide receiver, because even though they have bodies, there's not a whole lot of proven guys. So, I mean, I know that's the case for every team, but some teams are much deeper than others. The Eagles in 2017 and 18 had good depth, but now it's completely different. So that would be number one, Adam, is that this team has to be way healthier than it's been in the past. And I would say just number two is that their offensive and defensive lines have to be elite to make up for the back end of the defense. You get your defensive line hitting the quarterback, and to help a second-year quarterback to help him along the way, to give him the time to find everybody open out there, then he's going to need great blocking.
Yeah, so this is Hurts' first full season as a starter with an asterisk. I say asterisk. Unless something crazy happens, they trade for Deshaun Watson. It's still out there. One thing I'll say about that story, you and I have known about this since really in mid-March. The Eagles have been monitoring the situation. I don't think they've stopped monitoring it. And by the way, you notice there are no reports to refute anything that's out there about the Eagles' interest in Watson. You and I know this historically since we've covered the team.
Mm-hmm.
When they don't want something out there, they're going to shoot it down through somebody. They haven't done that.
Right.
Just think about that, folks. There's a reason for it.
Sure. So I don't know. And again, I want people to understand me clearly here. I'm not picking on anyone, Right. I'm because sometimes we talk about this and we'll get comments, oh, Geoff and Adam are always digging at the fans or condescending. No, I'm not digging at anybody. I'm asking a question why people would have, because I have to imagine there's a cross section here of the same the same people who were so down on the team 2 or 3 months ago have now woken up and said, you know what? They're going to be a lot better than I thought. I would just ask, what is it and why?
Right.
And I would remind you that kind of thinking may be detrimental to you as a fan, because then all of a sudden you build up an expectation that the team should be this. And if it doesn't meet it, you get back to, oh, they're sour. I can't believe that everybody's got to be fired. Remember, 2016, they started off 3-0 and everybody thought, oh my God, this is unbelievable. They're 3-0. They waxed the Steelers in week 3. I remember listening to some sports talk shows and the theme was, do we need to recalibrate our thinking of the Eagles? But nothing, like, they were still a team with a first-year head coach, a first-year quarterback, not a great secondary. Like, that the season is an ebb and flow, and you can catch some teams at the right time. You can get hot, you can get cold. And clearly the 2016 Eagles were not going to be a playoff team or a really good team. I don't care what the Eagles themselves thought. It was pretty obvious when you have DGB and Nelson Aguilar on the out. They were a mess in enough areas to know that they needed to develop. But 3-0 turned people into, oh my God. So that the point when they actually started losing games that people thought they'd win, remember, people wanted Doug fired after the first year. They thought he was incompetent. They thought Carson was throwing too many picks. I mean, again, that's all I'm saying is that you almost lull yourself into thinking, having too high expectations, and then you're disappointed when a team does what it should, but that didn't meet the expectations that you had.
Right. So they're to me on paper, they're 6 or 7 win team on paper. Okay. Now
I think that's fair.
How could they be better than that? Here's where they can be. These young kids, now Fulgham is very gifted. We detailed first last probably in November, we were hearing kind of why he didn't get the job back from Jeffrey. It was part because Jeffrey's highly paid veteran. He was going to cut into his time anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Plus Fulgham did not handle everything that was happening about his, I don't want to call it demotion, but not getting the playing time well. He needed to practice better. He performed better. Right. Doug Peterson, by the way, I went back and looked at his I did this about a month or so ago. I looked back at the press conference when he was asked about this. Like he said it in his own way. Like if you really read through them, he wouldn't come out and criticize him. He just said he's got to earn the playing time.
Right.
And look, that's the truth. He got benched. Oh, I did bench. He wasn't even playing for Detroit, but he thought he should have been playing more. From our sources, we were told that Fulgham thought he should have been playing more. The coaches didn't. The coaches wanted him off the football team, so they got him off the football team.
Right.
So he needs to grow up a little bit, but he's very gifted. If he puts it together, if Rager puts it together, again, these are all if. This is, again, we're talking about how could they be 500 or better.
Right.
Rager's supremely gifted. He just has to put it together. He was hurt last season. Smith, from what we've heard, we're not going to do a lot of rookie camp stuff because there's really nothing there, very little.
Right.
But I do want to mention this from what we've heard. When I say Smith looks the part, it's not his body. I'm not even talking about that and how fast he is. I'm talking about he's a Nick Saban coach player. He's super serious about his job, as is Landon Dickerson. He's going to be great for the locker room. Mm-hmm. I have no doubt about it. Everything I'd heard prior is exactly what I heard during the camp. Super serious about his job. This is exactly what this room needed as an alpha. He's going to be the leader of that room. You just wait and see.
Yeah, as we're talking about wide receivers and Travis Fulgham last year getting benched, we know that part of that was also Alshon Jeffrey coming back. And I can't believe it. Well, I can believe it, but Alshon Jeffrey is still a free agent, is he not?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
That?
He changed agencies. Yeah. He is out there. And look, Alshon is an older player now. He's in his 30s, a major injury history, and that's but the guy produces. To me, he'd be a good fourth receiver for a team, a 25 to 30 snap a game guy. That's what I think he is at this point in his career.
Probably. Also, Jason Peters still out there. He did say he wanted to play. I know he did an interview, I believe, with John Clark, a month after the season, and said, I still want to play. It's probably not going to be in Philly. I love how he said probably, because you can never slam the door when it's Jason Peters, right?
I'm sorry.
You just can never slam the door officially.
No, he's like Jason from Friday the 13th. He just keeps coming back. But Jason might get into scouting. By the way, I heard
that's right.
He's an interest in personnel, I'm told, and he also has line that he might get into the condiment business, like our friend Mark Schlereth. But he is. I'll tell you what. I know talking to the Eagles about Peters. He is real good at teaching younger players technique.
Mm-hmm.
He actually will teach them in practice. He'll help them. So that's a good thing.
Wow. Well, I mean, he was listen. He was very respected by the fellow
Oh
offensive
yeah,
and defensive line. So,
yeah.
but it would be interesting to see. I kind of thought Kansas City, with all before, because they had such a offensive line woes, and now they've signed a lot of guys. But maybe even still, I kind of thought maybe the Chiefs might take a shot.
Kansas City is now 10 deep. It's unbelievable. They went from having their line was a joke in the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
they're legit 10 deep. Like all 10 of the guys could play or start. It's really remarkable.
Yeah. The newsflash, this just in. I think the Chiefs are going to be pretty good this year.
Yeah, I know, man. Annie and Brett Veach got it, and we thank Brett. Actually came on our show last summer, right before camp started. That was pretty cool. But
that was really awesome.
Look, this team. And then, offensively at wide receiver, I'm expecting this to be a good year for Goddard, whether Ertz is on the team or not. Right now, he is.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna knock down the running backs in a couple minutes here. And defensively, there's just no depth. They really have no depth on the defensive line at all. They're 3 deep at DN. That's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
D tackle, they're 2 deep. We don't know about Ridgeway. He's never been able to put it together. He's been hurt a lot.
Right.
Milton Williams is a tweener. We don't know about him yet. We know what the skill set is. We also know he's got shorter arms than you'd like. It's a problem for other teams that I spoke to. Tui Pelotu is an interesting kid who probably should have been drafted earlier, but again, he's never played in the NFL. He's a rookie. So they have no depth right now in the defensive line. It's proven. They're 2 deep right now. That's a problem.
Yeah.
Linebacker is always a problem. We don't need to go into it. We've said it 1,000 times now at outside corner. It's a major issue.
Mm-hmm.
These are problems. They're not going to be solved. Okay. The Eagles will add a corner at some point, an outside corner, maybe 2. By late July, early August. But the fact of the matter is teams aren't trading you a starting corner. They might trade you, barring a Ronald Darby situation where the guy that they're trading for is in a bad scheme fit. You just can't depend on that. That's my point. You just can't think that's going to happen.
Right. So, all right. I'm glad you and I kind of see eye to eye. You've heard the sentiment out there too. And maybe the Eagles will prove people wrong. I just find I still wonder, like, what happened between then and now that people just and I feel like this happens every off season, by the way. And not just the Eagles, I think it's the nature of like being like fandom. You always want to be optimistic. The Phillies will make a few moves and nothing splashing. It's like, all right, we get all in on the Phillies every year. And then by June, we're like, oh my God, they're still 500. I mean, no matter what they do.
The Phillies.
Yeah.
Joe Girardi, goodness gracious. Well, that's for your show, the Powder Blue Show. But
that's right.
Look, right now, this to me they got real issues on defense. I don't see it. They cannot afford an injury on the defensive line. They got a major issue.
Very agree. Very much agree.
Those 4 starters, any of them get hurt. I do believe this, and this will help you in fantasy. They're probably going to have to throw way more than they want to because I don't think the defense is going to stop anyone. Yeah. I just don't think they're talented enough.
By the way, what happens if Slay? I mean, forget getting hurt. Oh God, he's the worst. What if he has to come out of a half? Like what?
No, he is to me the most indispensable player right now.
Yeah.
If he gets hurt, oy vey. What are they going to put out? Jamison Houston, Michael Chiquette. Other than
Zach McPherson and
Zach McPherson, and he's going to play. He actually might start, but. Braylon Arnold, I don't know where they're going to line him up yet. That's not something I'm going to cover till training camp because
I know.
He's about 100th on our priority list to find out about. I don't even know if he'll even be in training camp. He has to make it there first. Let's see what happens.
Right.
But Mater's the kid that we should mention him. That was the one roster move they made.
Right.
It was on and off Minnesota's practice squad, an active roster. I don't know, 3 or 4 times.
Well, it's Nate Mater, right? Is that
Nate Mater's? Yeah. Right. He's a combo player, safety corner. He was also with Jacksonville. Now he's a young guy, only 24. But again, he's yet another guy who knows Jonathan Gannon's defense because he's running, as we were told back in March, and it still holds true, or February, whatever the hell it was.
Right.
They're running he's going to run his version of Zimmer's off defense. But I do wonder, and we're not going to know this for a while, what won't he use of Zimmer's? And we take something from Matt Eberflus. We don't know that yet, but we're certainly going to find out.
Absolutely. All right. Look. I have no idea how much winning the Eagles are going to be doing in 2021, right? I know that I liked winning and you like winning when we were in high school. Those days are long past us. We've retired off the field. a long, long time ago, but we are still winning now because we use Deal Dash, the online shopping platform that's actually fun, right? Deal Dash, it's the longest running penny auction website and app around. I know that sounds too good to be true, but you know what? It is. It's true. We've seen a car sold for $900. We've seen a brand new TV less than $2. I saw wireless speakers, outdoor, waterproof, less than $100. They were valued at over $200. It's amazing site. You got to check it out. Don't be a loser. Stop paying full retail price for the things that you want and get on Deal Dash.
App.
Go ahead.
Get that app. Got it on my phone.
Oh, yeah. DealDash.com or download the app. And when you register, use the promo code ITB for a special offer for some bonus free bids. That's ITB for a special offer on bonus free bids when you use that promo code ITB. All right. So let's talk about the Nick Sirianni press conference. There's another thing I guess, it's not really a fan sentiment. It's just because everybody is saying this, that I want to eventually talk about with you.
Okay.
But a lot of the questions were centered on competition, as you mentioned earlier. And and a lot of them were also designed to try to get Nick Sirianni to declare Jalen Hurts a starting quarterback, which
he's making fun of it. Yeah.
An excellent job of A, not taking the bait, and B, I liked how he said, he goes, you guys aren't going to leave this alone, are you? So, I mean, look, if some guy would ever crack by now as the Eagles head coach, it would have been Nick for all the abuse that he's taken from his
hey, it ain't going to get easier. It's not going to get easier for him.
I know. Wait till he loses a game.
Oh, yeah. Look, I think the fans now see this guy's all about energy and passion for the job.
Definitely.
And accountability is also the two things that I had heard from various people who've worked with him over the years is accountability and competition.
Mm-hmm.
The major issue with Peterson over the final years was the lack of accountability.
Right.
Not holding the players accountable enough. When Doug started figuring it out after 16, when he knew he had to hold players more accountable, guys are getting fined who weren't getting fined before. I told that story about, I haven't talked about this in like 3 years, but very quickly, this parallels to here.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's between the Atlanta and the Minnesota playoff games in the Super Bowl run, where the Eagles receiver drops the football and everybody stands there because they don't know if it was incomplete or a fumble. And Doug went off. He couldn't understand it. He's like, "What the hell you got?" You know, he cursed.
Right,
so
right.
He went after his coaches and he went after his players. And you know, I don't think this will ever be not only will it not be a problem for this head coach. The way that I hear it, okay, and now we're going to learn more when you and I go to training camp, in particular. Well, we saw this with Andy Reid. He did this when Michael Vick came in. When I remember when he went after Jeremy Macklin's first practice. I was kind of surprised. I'm like, man, this is just a rookie minicamp. Who cares?
Yeah, he did it from day one with George Hegeman. I mean,
George Hegeman. Now that
blocking sled.
When he said Eagles better come correct, I shouldn't remember the stuff, but I remember being taken aback that George Hegeman thought he needed to get a new contract. He said the Eagles need to come correct. That was it. He was out. The next day, he made him, as you just said, block the sled, use the blocking sled.
Yeah.
Then he cut him. And did we talk to Joe Banner about that? I think we did.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I remember one of us asked Joe about, you know, the ways in which Andy kind of seized control of the team as soon as he got there. This is right after Nick Sirianni was hired.
Yeah.
And I think I said, you know, aside from the story we've all heard about George Hegeman, and then he wound up, you know, going into that, but then he gave a couple of anecdotes about how Andy was always just like supremely confident from day one that he was going to run this program tight, just with an iron, not an iron fist, but he was going to run the program efficiently.
Early, Geoff, 99 and 2000. You talk to anyone who worked for him, and we've talked to other players who've over the years have played for Andy.
Mm-hmm.
He was tough as hell the first year because remember, it did not end well for Ray Rhodes and that staff. And Andy Andy was coming and setting the tone. He was, and as you know, Andy's got a heart of gold, but man, those first 2 years was unbelievably difficult for the players.
Yeah. I remember Trey Thomas saying how much he got fined.
On our show.
A couple of pounds overweight. And he was paying like what my mortgage is on for like 3 years just in fines.
Did he say like 30? He said something.
It was something absurd. Like I couldn't
Yeah.
believe that people could get fined that much
Yeah,
money.
and he was late. What is he late? 1 or 2 times? I don't know what it was, but
Yeah. Yeah.
look, I'm expecting to move this back to Nick Sirianni. I'm expecting him to do what I've heard. He's going to hold players accountable at every practice. Remember, they get to watch even this tape where there's not much to learn.
Mm-hmm.
What coaches always tell me, you want them from station to station, from drill to drill, running and not, or jogging or running and not walking. They're just the little things that you have to set the tone when this is your program.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, Geoff and I will be checking in with our people and finding out, hey, what do you think about this guy? Is he for real? Because he seems like it, but what is he like behind the scenes? Because Peterson in year 1 was trying to figure it out. He was like a fish swimming up water. He really upstream. He was trying to figure it out. Quite frankly, he wasn't ready. Doug Peterson in year 1.
Mm-hmm.
And then something happened. I don't know if people got in his ear. He started to know that he was in trouble, or something. The way I'd heard it after the season, he knew that, and obviously, he must have known about the Jim Schwartz long meeting with Jeffrey Lurie.
Mm-hmm.
But something happened. The light went off. Now, with this guy, he hasn't been here for very long. He doesn't have a great roster. They're probably not going to be very good.
Mm-hmm.
He can't look at it that way. He's just got to coach hard. And I also like how he talked about his coaches the previous week here in the rookie camp.
Loved it.
Yeah, how he talked about them competing. And this guy is interesting. I don't know how good of a coach he's going to be, but he sure speaks like he's got himself together, but we're going to see.
I tell you something. It's funny how sometimes even in coach speak, there can be some acknowledged truth, and unintentionally, he said exactly what you said. He was asked about his coaching staff. The first thing he said was that they're going to get tired of him always talking about fundamentals and technique. He said he was going to be a relentless pit bull about those kind of things, which I think is a good thing. And is it coach speak? Yes, because I've heard a lot of coaches say that. I don't know that it was preached by Doug the way and applied. Hopefully it will be by this guy. We'll see. But he said he was going to be relentless about it. And then the second thing, as you mentioned, he talked about how the coaches are coaching for their jobs, just like the players are playing for their jobs. Now, do I think he just said that because he's just kind of trying to paint a picture of working tirelessly? Yeah. But just as you talked about, Doug almost it seemed rocky there for Doug after 1 year where his offense led the NFL in time of possession and they won 7 games with a rookie quarterback and not a great team. There was still some shakiness there, as you mentioned, the meeting with Jim Schwartz, right? Which to me goes to show that the people up top who make these decisions are a little bit impatient more than they can or should be at times. So I don't know if Nick Sirianni was really thinking, hey, if I don't do well, I'll be fired after a year, but you just never know with this team these days.
No, it's not that at all. It's just that this is, from what I understand, this is the way that the guy is.
Right. No, that's what I'm saying. He's not trying to say I might get fired after a year, but what I'm saying is go win 4 or 5 games and, you're probably going to feel a little pinch there at some point.
We'll see.
We don't
have it right, but this guy's got himself together way more than Peterson did as a rookie coach.
Well, you say that, but I mean,
but just on the surface,
yeah.
Talking to people who work with him and talking to the Eagles, people in the front office, Peterson was trying to figure it out. I don't know if any rookie head coach is ready, but he was really wet behind the ears. And remember, I know that there's a parallel between two because no one else was looking to interview Sirianni to be a head coach, and Doug Peterson, no one else put a slip in to interview him, and no one was really thinking about it. The only reason why I got the interview is because of his relationship with the Eagles.
Right.
Funny how things work out.
Definitely. So he also was asked about Jalen Hurts in many different ways. I liked a couple of questions. Yeah. Tim McManus asked a good question because he asked Nick, about the messaging. The reports are out there. Okay, you're not going to comment on the reports, but you have a guy right now who's pulling the wide receivers together, the running backs, doing workouts and readying to be the starting quarterback in Jalen Hurts. So what is the messaging to him? And that was where Nick came up with he had a good answer in that he at least praised Jalen for the work that they've been able to do in Zoom meetings. And I think he mentioned that he's shown to be a quick learner, hard worker. And there's something else. He's done a heck of a job learning the offense. And look, it was like this. If you're going to get something out of Nick Sirianni about Jalen Hurts, that was going to be it. And he had good praise for him there.
Yeah, I like when he said he could rattle off exactly what he's supposed to do on every single play. That's good.
Right.
That means he's learning, and that's part of the virtual program. Look, the first of all, he doesn't have personnel control, so he can't comment on what we've heard and other reporters have heard about the Eagles monitoring the situation with Watson. He's not going to. First of all, Watson's part of another team, so he can't. That would be tampering.
Right.
Number two, he can't shoot anything down or say anything is going on or in any way, shape, or form because that's not his job.
Mm-hmm.
So for him to comment on it's pointless. And I'm glad he handled it that way. It's exactly really what he said.
Absolutely. All right. I want to get to the crux though of the Jalen Hurts question that I like the most, because I thought the question itself was a very good and fair question. Now the answer wasn't great because it had to do with Jalen Hurts and starting. But we'll talk about that in a second. First, download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the code ITB when you sign up to hammer the over. For every 1,500 people that bet the over in the featured game, the line will decrease by 1 point. Right? So that's pretty cool. This is like kind of an all-in effort by DraftKings. Let's everybody hammer the over, get the line to decrease, and you get better odds to win. All right. So there's a lot of big games coming up too in the NBA playoffs as well. All right. So Jalen Hurts question, the one from Rob Motti, I thought was really interesting. And what Rob basically asked him was, is it fair? I'm going to see if I can find the question here so I'm not paraphrasing, because I thought it was really good. It was basically, if it's just 1 year, are you evaluating him for 2000? He says, how much of a priority is for the Eagles in 2021 to find out if Jalen Hurts is the quarterback of the future in 2022 and beyond? And do you think 1 year with a young team and a young coaching staff is good enough to accurately assess whether or not he can be that guy? It's a great question. I'll tell you why I think it's a great question. And by the way, the answer was nothing good, because it was basically Nick saying, hey man, I'm just here for day one, day two. Well, I'm not even focused on 2022.
Well, that's what he would say. I mean, that's
of course.
Yeah. You don't, go ahead. So
I'll tell you why I think it's a great question though, Adam, even though it's not about the answer. It's really about the discussion that we're about to have.
Mm-hmm.
There is a school of thought out there. I'd say it's a pretty prominent one too. That the Eagles should just give Jalen Hurts this year, right? Find out what you got in Jalen Hurts. And then if you don't got what you're looking for, you got all those picks next year. But I feel like when you say that, when someone says that, it makes it a very cut and dried question. Like after this year, you're just going to find out Jalen Hurts is not good, or you're going to find out he's really good. And unfortunately, there's too many variables in my mind that can come up that can make the conversation at the end of the year the exact same as it is right now. Like, for example, what if he goes 8 or 9 or 9 and 8, has some peaks, has some valleys? Do you really know after a year with a record like that whether he's good enough for year two?
You will, but here's the thing.
Hold on, wait. Let me just go through all the variables. What if he gets hurt for 5 or 6 games and he only winds up playing 12 and he's 6-6 or 7-4, like something where, again, peaks and valleys. Like I feel like when you say, let's just give Jalen Hurts a year and then see what you got, the insinuation is he's either going to be, 9, either win 10 or 11, 12 games, or he's going to stink and win 2 or 3 or 4.
I don't think it's about the record.
See,
I don't think it's about the record as much at all. I think it's about what the tape shows you. Tape outweighs everything. What's the tape look like?
Yeah, but that's fair. And I get how many other than Deshaun Watson last year, how many times does a guy have a really good year, but the record doesn't reflect it, or a really bad year and the record doesn't reflect it?
You just got to go by the tape. What's the tape tell you? I mean,
what if the tape tells you he was good? He had some really good games and some really bad games.
Well, this is his first full year starting. I mean, I don't know what the expectations are, because again, this guy was, as you and I outlined, we know the Eagles didn't have a second round grade on him. They just took him there because they didn't want anyone else to get him late in the second round. So to me, I don't know what this guy is as a quarterback. That's why I personally would like to see what they have in him, but that's not something right now that they're really focused on. But at the end of the year, you're going to, assuming that they don't make any trade for Deshaun Watson, he's going to get the full season. He should, unless he's A, really bad, or B, gets hurt. They'll have 17, not 16 games. You'll go by the tape. You'll look at the record, but you have to go through why. Let's say he starts all season. They're 5-12. Is he the reason they only have 5 wins? Or did he play way better than that? That the defense that they were having to throw because the defense is pitiful. I mean, you got to put in proper context.
But that just adds variables. You're right. I mean, that's fair, and the tape could show that. But the bottom line is normally, like, tape usually correlates to something. Like if you're an inconsistent quarterback, then the grade will. I mean, the tape will show it. The record will probably reflect it. I think there's a chance that at the end of the year, a good chance that you could have seen some really good things and some really bad things and still not be sure if the bad things can still be corrected.
Let's put it this way. If he shows that he handled the job capably, he's pretty much going to be the quarterback in 2022. Mm-hmm. If he's overwhelmed, struggles, inaccurate, remember we first noted this a couple months ago about what we were hearing type of offense he was going to run, which about Sirianni is a old school West Coast timing. You had a really good note. Did you say option route?
The in route adjustments of the wide receivers will be prioritized.
Yeah, and that is so much anticipation and timing.
Yeah, it puts a lot on the quarterback to really have that down.
If he can't handle it, he's not going to be the quarterback at 22. That to me is like right there. If you list the 5 things you want out of this offense from whoever's starting, which we highly suspect it's going to be high, the percentage is super high. That's going to be Hurts the entire season. Mm-hmm. He's got to be super accurate. I mean, being a 57% passer will not work. I don't care how young this group is. Now, I know that Sirianni's first time calling plays. I get it. Mm-hmm. But the type of offense they have is going to be structured on scheming guys to get open. Like, there's no better schemer of getting guys open than Kyle Shanahan. He's the best that I've seen in years. Mm-hmm. Sean Payton's right up there, but Kyle Shanahan, not that Sirianni is as good as Shanahan, but the type of offense they're going to run is a space game and slants and all sorts of in-breaking routes, and guys got to run good routes, and the quarterback has to see it before it happens. If he can't, he won't be the quarterback.
Don't leave Big Red out of that conversation either.
Well, Andy's at a different, but Andy's not running the West Coast like we like Kyle Shanahan. They're so different.
That's true. Yeah.
The only similarity is terminology. I mean, half the league runs North Turner's offense, the other half runs Shanahan's offense in terms of terminology.
Right. All right. Well, you do make a good point. Like take a guy like Justin Herbert last year. He looked really good. The Chargers overall were bad. I mean, they didn't have a good record. So the Chargers knew at the end of the year that Justin Herbert was going to be just fine going forward.
And by the way,
but I'll give you an example of a guy who, let's say he's fine because he was
great.
No. I haven't gotten the name yet. Tua. Tua is a guy that had to get yanked out of games, right? Oh, now, when I said he's fine, I just meant he's going to be the quarterback of the Dolphins next year, barring something crazy. But like, if you were just judging Tua on 1 year, you might be making like if Jalen Hurts has a year this year like Tua had last year, I don't know what you do. Because there were certainly things Tua did well.
Honestly, Tua was benched twice. And in week 17, I unfortunately watched every snap of that game because I wanted to see Tua. It was against Buffalo. He was terrible.
Right.
He would have been pulled, but Fitzpatrick was on the COVID list. So that would have been 3 times. That's not. And by the way, the way that they handled Tua was awful.
It was very odd.
What are you pulling the guy? It's so bizarre. First, they pull Fitzpatrick when they're in the mid-season when they I think they might have been above 500. They're definitely in the playoff race. So they pull him, put Tua in, and they pull him twice. I don't know. Brian Flores has done a nice job, but that was one of the most bizarre situations of handling a quarterback. And look, to sum it up, we'll know. We're all going to know. I don't think you'll. If Hurts starts the entire season, we're going to know. We know what the tape looks like. Even if you watch TV, you know what the quarterback position looks like. It's not going to be hard to grade him.
I'm not so certain. I think that there's going to be I think about how Nick Foles sometimes could look amazing, and then sometimes
2013 season, gimmick offense. Reality hit Nick after that.
Right, but there were times where you're like, look, the Rams thought he was going to be good, and they traded for him, but he wasn't. Like I think that you can have an incomplete picture of a guy after 1 year, and I worry that might be the case with Jalen, and that not worry, but I don't care. But I mean, like, the team is put in this position where they have to make kind of a decision where you don't have all the evidence or you're not sure. But that's for them to figure out. Us to just analyze.
But what we'll do, but actually, this brings up a great subject. We'll probably do it in December if Hurts has started the entire season. And the fans will do it too on our ITB board and Facebook. If you haven't joined it, everybody will give it, and we'll do our shows with Cosell, and we'll see if Trey Thomas will be back with us. Hopefully, he will be. But when we do our Sunday show, and our tape review show. We're going to have all this. Well, by the way, folks, you won't ever have to guess. We'll make the decision for the Eagles with our sources. We'll know it. We'll have gone through the tape from our people. We'll know it. We talked to so many teams that do advance on the Eagles. They'll tell us. Like, you won't have to guess. We'll have already told you before the season ended who the quarterback's going to be, because the tape will tell us. It'll speak to us.
The tape, the eye in the sky don't lie.
It does not lie. It does not.
All right. You know who else doesn't lie? Our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. Make sure you check them out. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all of our Philadelphia sports teams. You can find them on Twitter at PHLSportsNation, or just go to the website, PHLSportsNation.com. Let's pause real quick for another word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. All right, and if you go into Sky Motor Cars, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. I guarantee you will get a phenomenal deal.
And by the way, if you're looking to sell a car, they are buying. There's a used car shortage around the country. Brett Shoulder, I talked to Brett last week, the owner, and though they're doing phenomenally well, man, they need cars. In fact, one of my dealerships called me that I've bought cars from over the years. It's crazy.
Maybe I'll give Brett a call. Maybe I can.
Yeah, but so if you're looking to sell your car, call Brett Shoulder. They are his shop is in Westchester,
right
off 202. In fact, the last time I went to his place, I went to the driving range. There's a driving range right near his. If you didn't want to play golf, there's a really good driving range there. But yeah, no, they're looking for cars, folks. Not only do they sell incredible cars, go to their website at skymotorcars.com.
Excellent. All right, let's talk some running backs as we do our positional preview.
Oh, yeah, let's do that. Yep.
Yeah, we'll get into some running backs here. As I mentioned before, Brian Westbrook says the most complete running back group that they've had in quite a while.
That surprised me when he said that on ITB TV. And we asked him why, and he described it. And I think that the truth is there's a diverse group of backs. You've got Howard, who's the big back, power back. Kerryon Johnson's a combination of size and versatility. You worry about the knee. We'll get into that. Boston Scott obviously did not do as well last year. That's why he's got a lot of competition. It's not, folks, it's never about yards per carry. It's about what the tape shows you.
Right.
It's then you match the numbers up to the tape, and then you'll see what kind of back he is. He did not play to his numbers.
Is it fair to say it could be about the yards per carry when he averaged 1.2 with Miami last year?
Right. No, but the overall people,
no,
he had a good yards per carry. Folks, the tape wasn't very good. I mean, we told you this last year. If you listened to us, we tried to warn you.
Yeah.
I was a big Boston Scott fan. We had B West on last year, and he talked about him. I guess he talked to him, as a matter of fact. I think he said
he did. Yeah.
And Boston just did not progress. And the thing is, we said this. He's not a number 2 running back. He's a 3, and he's a changeup. If you use him correctly, I think he could be very effective on those wheel routes and certain things that he does well. But let's get started with Miles Sanders. And I'm getting, the fantasy people are going out of their minds. I think Matthew Berry, my friend Matthew, I've known him since 2000. I know him as Matt, but he's been in Miles Sanders' detractor. So he's trying to think like the Kerryon Johnson waiver claim is a death knell to Miles Sanders' career, which obviously is stupid. It's not.
What?
Yeah, he. I had a couple people ask me on Twitter,
smarter than that,
to comment on it, and I'm like, Barry will want to be emailing me closer to the season as he always does. I like Matt. I've known him forever, but he's a conspiracy theorist when it comes to these running backs. That's fine. He's not
conspiracy.
He is. He thinks like there's some kind of underlying meaning, and I had a couple people. One guy asked John Hansen and I on our fantasy show to talk about it. Because I've been sort of a Miles Sanders truther, but I also tell the truth. Miles did not progress. Like, he didn't regress at all. He just didn't progress like they thought he would. And it's fair. I'm if you want to criticize Sanders for not doing as well as he should have last year, I'm with you. I expected more and we didn't get it.
Well, shame though on Matthew Berry for perpetrating the big lie that Kerryon Johnson is here to take Miles Sanders.
No, but he said he thinks like this is a sign that they're not happy with Sanders. That's not the case.
No. I think that they're just trying to increase the value of their running back room. I mean, you have a chance to claim a guy off waivers and take a contract for a guy who's had good flashes, but as you mentioned, has been hurt, and compete for your number 2 back. And as we've said all along, it all really ties into Boston Scott, right? Because you just don't want him as your number 1 back. I hope he's on the team. I like Boston Scott, and I like what he brings from a multi-dimensional skill set, but I don't like him stepping into the number one back role if Miles Sanders has to miss 2 or 3 games or anything
Exactly.
like that. I like the idea of Kerryon Johnson then stepping into that role and being the lead back, or at least most lead back. Then you split a little bit with Gainwell and with Boston Scott if he's on the team. But I don't think
Johnson.
Yeah.
Just one thing on with the Kerryon Johnson. His knee. I was told he wore a sleeve last year. He's just not been the same. Had multiple knee injuries. Leave college out. Doesn't matter.
Right.
Nothing that happened in college is affecting him now. It's the knee that has happened here. He had, I'm told, a pretty significant MCL a couple years ago, and he had another knee injury, and he wore that sleeve, and he just was not himself. This is where the tape matched the numbers perfectly. He ran for under 4 yards a carry, which is pathetic for guys gifted. This guy was a 2nd-round pick. Geoff was talking about that.
Yeah.
I'm also told that the Eagles had a very high. They had high grades turned in. 2018, he was drafted in the 2nd round. He's a set him up vision running back, cuts, upright runner, downhill, really gifted, outstanding pass protector. That's what I'm told from my Lions guy. Really good at it. Good kid. He's just not the same back because of the knee issue. That's the only issue that he has, his knee, and it is an issue.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit like from the Jay Ajayi school of you always have to worry about the knee, you know?
Well, he had the lack of cartilage, I think.
Yeah, he was bone on bone, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember exactly what I put out there. Yeah.
Pretty sure that was the case.
It was, because I remember I had asked someone like, wow, I can't believe he dropped to the 5th round. What happened? And that's what you just said is what he had. He had a bone on bone issue. The belief around the league was he might be only a 1 contract player. That means you're not being drafted in the upper half of the draft.
Right.
You're going to be a 4th, 5th, or 6th round pick when you're only 1 contract guy. Technically, he was more than that, but very little after that.
Yeah, so I look forward. I agree that the knee will always be an issue, but that's why I kind of look forward to this Kerryon Johnson versus Jordan Howard competition. Some people have reached out to us and asked if it's possible that both of those guys are on the team, and I can't see the Eagles committing all that money, because even with Jordan Howard's like kind of $1 million, I think is base salary.
I'll look it up as you speak. Go ahead.
If Kerryon Johnson and Jordan Howard both made the team, that means one of them, maybe Jordan Howard, is your 3rd running back at $1 million. I mean, that's for a team that doesn't have a whole lot of money.
Yeah,
that seems like too much for a guy who's going to play like five snaps.
Jordan Howard does not even count against the cap right now.
Really.
Base is 990. He's not part of the top 51. 990 base. I'm looking at my database. 990 base. Cap number's 850. That's no guaranteed money.
Yeah,
he doesn't even.
Isn't that still a lot for like 990? Isn't that a lot for a 3rd string running back? What's Boston Scott making? He's probably in the 300,000.
50. No. Remember, he's
what am I talking about? Yeah,
920 actually is his base.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. His cap was also 920 because he was he exclusive rights? Yes, he was an exclusive rights running back.
Wow. I wonder why Jordan Howard thought his career was done. I mean,
how about those quotes, huh? How about that?
Well, I mean, the contract basically tells you.
Right. Well, he had no interest. He basically next to no interest. That's why he came back.
Right.
But I was told that the Eagles had him. This is going back a couple months, but I know they had him 3rd or 4th on their list, and they would only go to him if they couldn't get the right back for the amount of money they wanted. And similar to last summer when they were chasing, what was the guy? Who's now with Jacksonville for the 2nd time. I'm seeing the former 2nd rounder for the Niners. I'm talking about
Brieda? No,
Carlos Hyde. Remember they chased
Hyde,
Carlos
right,
Hyde.
yes.
They didn't want to pay him. They and I get it. Look, if you really look at it, what they're paying. Okay, let's just look at it really quick. Okay, Miles Sanders, less than $1 million, $982,294. Okay, just under $1 million. Kerryon Johnson, he's the highest paid running back on the roster, $1.3667 million. Okay, Boston Scott, $920,000. Jordan Howard, $990 salary, but cap, which is more important in this case, is $850. They're not paying a lot of money, less than $5 million for 4 backs.
Yeah.
So then the question is, and Kenny Gainwell $660. The question is, and which we're going to get into now, what are everyone's roles? This is the toughest thing to find out because we're only in May, but I did a little digging. I think let's start with Miles Sanders. Obviously, he has no competition to be the 1st and 2nd down back. There's no competition there because he's the guy. Now, as Brian Westbrook said, he needs to be the guy. He needs to play on our ITB interview, which we did last week with him. B. West breaks it down really well, and Miles is so gifted, but he's got to be explosive. He's also had some hamstring problems for the first 2 seasons. That's a little bit of an issue. Is he really going to lose touches? I do believe where he rarely would be taken out on 3rd down, other than for Boston Scott. If Kerryon Johnson makes the roster, he's going to lose some snaps to Sanders will lose some snaps occasionally to Kerryon Johnson, because Sanders is a very average pass protector. He's not there yet in pass pro. That, I believe, it's something to do with him, Kerryon Johnson, being claimed.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably also what had Brian talking about the completeness. I think he went into that, just the idea that Miles really needs to come along in that part of the game, and that Kerryon Johnson excels in pass protection. In fact, that reminds me, if you go to InsideTheBirds.com, Andrew DeCecco did a really good all 22 breakdown.
Oh, nice.
On Kerryon Johnson.
Nice.
And one or two of the clips that he put in involve Kerryon and pass protection, and you can see it with your eyes. And the all 22 really helps from both angles, the air angle and the end zone angle.
Yeah.
Of showing how good he has. It's because, and Brian talked about this, it's not just about blocking or technique. It's about seeing the entire defense, understanding where the blitzer is going to come from.
Identification.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, Greg Cosell tells us, like, the cap safety means the blitz is coming from here. So, like, it's not just reading, the front 7 and wondering who's the one that's kind of rocking back and forth. You got to really understand what you're seeing out of the whole 11 in front of you, and make that, determination in your head where the blitz is likely to come from. And he's good at that.
It's funny about Kerryon Johnson. So last summer, I was checking into the Lions backfield, and we knew DeAndre Swift was going to be a factor. And I asked one of our Lions guys, I said, "Hey, what is Kerryon going to make it?" He goes, "What, are you kidding? He's not only our best pass protector."
Mm-hmm.
He goes, "If you grade the tape of 32 teams, he's probably a top 5 pass protector." I'm like, "Really? Wow. All right, good nugget. Okay, thank you."
Yeah.
And then, as you just said, our guy DeCecco does a tape breakdown. That's awesome that he did that.
That's really good.
So we just explained Sanders' role. He's a primary 1st and 2nd down back. That's obviously not going to change. Now, who would back him up as the primary in game? Because there are 2 roles here. There's the, as Geoff said, if Sanders gets hurt, who's the answer? We said this last year.
Mm-hmm.
Eagles didn't have an answer when Sanders didn't play. Boston Scott was not the answer. It was clearly not the answer. Who would be that answer? Now, I think it's, as you said earlier, I agree with you. It's a combination of 2 backs. Johnson, if he makes it, which I think, boy, I'd be very surprised if he doesn't make it. His knee would have to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
As long as his knee is fine, it's Johnson and the other back. Now, Kenny Gainwell is sort of an outlier. Don't think of him as going to have a defined role every game. It could be a matchup thing, because from what I understand, the staff is big on matchups. So let's say they play a team that's terrible and their linebackers suck in coverage, like the Eagles did last year. Maybe Gainwell has a bigger role that game. There might be games where he doesn't touch the football. It's again, this guy's a 5th round pick. I know he's better than that,
mm-hmm.
but he's got to prove it. So I do believe that if Sanders gets hurt, you're looking at Kerryon Johnson, and I think Kerryon Johnson and Boston Scott would be a great tandem. I really do.
I would think so. Kerryon Johnson in Boston, or Kerryon and Gainwell. I mean,
yeah.
You can get one guy's the runner, the other guy's the pass catcher in a lot of ways, and then
change up, right?
Yeah, and Boston's good. Yeah. Boston's good enough in a limited role to kind of, like, you don't know if they're going to run or pass when he's in the game, because he's done both.
Great point.
And he can do well.
Great point. Yeah, agree with you.
All right, so that'll be that's going to be one of the most fun positions to kind of see as training camp
hard.
goes down.
It's going to be hard to figure it out.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's going to be the hardest, I think, of receiver. Also won't. Well, we kind of know who the top 3 guys will be. Well, at least we think we do.
Mm-hmm.
But running back, other than Sanders, and Jordan Howard, he's going to play into it. We're not going over the other backs, because they have to play their way in to be a factor. The guys like Holyfield is not even going to. The previous staff clearly didn't want him. He never got a chance.
Right.
Huntley has no chance. Killens is back. He's a changeup.
Yeah.
I mean, just
practice squad guys.
Yeah. They just don't, they're too many running backs. And the thing is, the 5 guys are competing for probably 4 jobs. I know people want to know. There's no way to know how many backs they'll keep. They're not keeping 5 unless
one of them
gets hurt. There's just no point in keeping 5 running backs at this point.
How many did they keep last year? Do you remember? Was it just 3? Was it Miles, Corey Clement, and Boston Scott?
Huntley, remember Huntley was claimed off waivers.
Yeah, so they kept 3 and then added a 4th right after the cutdown where they claimed Huntley off waivers.
Let me see. It was Sanders, Scott, Clement.
And then Huntley got added late. So they went into the season opener with 4.
Yeah, looks like it.
Okay. All right. So they could keep 4.
Oh, yeah. Corey Clement,
Huntley.
by the way.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say Corey Clement signed with the Giants.
Yep.
Eagles did not offer him a contract to come back. So, as I understand it, so he'll have, he obviously have to make it on special teams. They're loaded at running back. Although he could compete for that number 3 job there, but right now that Eagles running back group, I agree with B West. They got a lot of versatility. They got power. They got size.
Mm-hmm.
The thing, I know we've got this question. It's a phenomenal question, and we don't have the answer yet. We have a partial answer. Is people want to know, will this be more of a run team or by analytics being more of a pass team? Yes, more of a pass team, but I do wonder because Frank Reich's Mr. Balance. Frank Reich did not believe in just based on play calling, he didn't believe in all the things that the Eagles do here in terms of being more pass happy.
Mm-hmm.
So I do wonder how much of Frank Reich will rub off on Sirianni. I don't have that answer.
Mm-hmm.
We do know what the owner wants in terms of the pass game.
Definitely. And as we've heard, what Jeffrey wants, Jeffrey gets.
Yeah.
Wish that was the case for me.
That Jeffrey. Yeah, you're the other Jeffrey.
And I'm not as nearly as an important Jeffrey. And I spell my name the wrong way.
With a G.
A lot of people.
Yes.
All right. So what do you got coming up on Twitch? So you do Twitch 4 days a week now, correct?
Yeah, Monday through Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. 8.
Wait, you taking Friday off? Why don't you do 5 days a week?
Quiet. It's just quiet. The good thing is it's been commandeered by Eagle fans. It's actually kind of funny. And the questions are phenomenal. And I told the guys, if there's a question I don't get, we'll probably answer it on here or vice versa. But the Bucks fans come in, Browns fans come in.
Right. The
funny thing is we're not getting anyone from the NFC East. I just can't understand none of the Eagles. I got to do a better job promoting, and so do they, Twitch. But Mark Schlereth and Trey Wingo have a show, and I'm probably going to do a show with them at some point just to pop on, and
cool,
vice versa.
Nice.
And then, by the way, your Powder Blue show. Oh my God. Okay, so explain. We just had the weekend. We're into Monday now. so I did not tell me something on Joe Girardi.
Yeah.
Okay, I need an opinion before we get out of here. How do you think he's done so far? Because people are killing him over the past weekend after the shenanigans, the issue with Segura. Yeah. Are you down on him? Where are you out here with Joe?
I'm a little surprised by some of the strange mistakes that a veteran manager would make that you wouldn't expect. I mean, he was pretty tip top with the Yankees as far as he handled the bullpen really well. Not just that, he won the title, and then he took a team, in his last year that nobody thought was really that good, and probably wasn't, to the ALCS, and then they lose to Houston, right? He really handled the bullpen well in New York, and obviously he's had some struggles with that here among some other things. That the Phillies are a mess at times, and then they win like 3 or 4 in a row to make you think they're good, and then they kind of have a weekend, a series like with Toronto again that all of a sudden, you want Nola to bounce back from a bad start. He doesn't have a great start. Defensively, they're in shambles, and I don't know. I do think, though, that you see that it's not always on the anybody who hated Gabe Kapler can see that some of the issues from the Kapler regime are still going on.
Fundamentals, man.
Yeah. So when it's more than just a manager, then you realize you're it goes deeper than that. So I'm curious to see if they can get their act together defensively, get some bullpen arm, get Archie Bradley back.
That Coonrod guy, he's good.
Listen, I think he's got a chance. I think he's got a chance to be a closer someday. He's got to be more consistent. I think Neris is going to come crashing back to earth. I mean, he already started a little bit, but
it's not, Neris will never hold up. He's very streaky.
Agree.
But to close it out with the Phillies, there are three pitcher staff. We knew that coming in.
Yep.
I mean, we know it going out. I mean, Vince Velasquez, I give him credit. He drives me out of my mind.
Yeah, literally. I know he has had 3 nice starts here in a row, but I'm not.
But I'll give Ruben Mar he had a great interview. He was on IP a couple months ago, and he gave great insight to why guys like Velasquez are there. As frustrating as the guy is, he has upside, and he's going to drive you crazy. But there's going to be a time when you need him. Their minor leagues still suck. They just don't have anybody else other than Spencer Howard, right?
Right.
But look, there's
got no farm.
Right.
Amazingly, this Maton kid has come up and hit really
How
well.
about this kid?
That's been awesome.
It's so funny. I never heard of the guy, right? So I'm going through all the stats. I'm like, he was drafted by them. Why have we never heard about this guy until now?
It's amazing. It really is. It just came out of nowhere.
Kingery. Oh, all right, breaks my heart.
Let's talk about something more positive before we get out of here. All right. Are the Sixers going to be in the NBA Finals this year?
Yes, I'm picking them against the Clippers. Don't sleep on the Clippers, folks.
Clippers, okay.
They are so loaded. I watch the NBA like crazy. I'm one of these morons who stays up to 1 Eastern when they're on West Coast, when their game's on at 10:30 Eastern. I watch. They haven't had their full lineup like the Sixers. They're in the same boat. They just haven't had PG-13 and everybody together. This Terrence Mann, holy smokes! I don't know if you've seen him off the bench. He's terrific. Yep. Explosive as hell.
Yep.
He reminds me a little bit of Tyrese Maxey. Maxey's a little bit more explosive. But they're loaded. They're legit 10 deep, and Boogie Cousins is giving them time.
That would be a heck of a storyline, by the way. Doc Rivers versus his old team.
I know. Wouldn't it be crazy? I know.
What else would be but Kawhi Leonard against the Sixers again? Like it was a couple of years ago when he was with Toronto. Not Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard. Yeah.
I do believe the Nets just don't play defense. They just don't.
I agree with you, but here's my thing. If the Nets are fully healthy, I think that they will outscore the Sixers in a 7-game series.
But I
think that they have more. They're more talented. That's fair, right?
They're
a more talented team.
Well, in terms of offense, the Sixers have to defend like nobody's business. I mean, having Dwight Howard, I cannot tell you how important that is.
Oh, I thought you were going to say having Matisse Thybulle for defense, but
him too. But when Embiid goes out, he's incredible. I mean, and he scores inside, but but
if they go small, I mean, then you got to match.
Well, they are going to be because they don't really have a center.
Yeah.
The Nets don't have a center because of Aldridge's retirement.
Right.
Griffin is he's a shade of himself. He can still play, but he's not the same. Blake Griffin's not the same guy.
Right.
You got Nick Claxton I like who's taken over, but
overall
I think it's close. And you're right. They have more offense than the Sixers do, but the Sixers defense is so much better. It's like another zip code. They don't have any concept.
I feel like when you're talking about though guys who are Hall of Famers like Harden, Kyrie, and Durant, they're not going to have like bad nights because you play good defense. They're Hall of Famers. I mean, they've, other than Harden, I mean, the other two have won championships. They know what playoff defense is like. They've withstood it. I mean,
I get it, but they don't have. They are so bad. I've watched the Nets probably 20 times this season. They're so bad defensively.
Yeah.
Aldridge getting hurt, or unfortunately hurt. He had to retire due to kidney, I guess it was.
Yeah.
But whatever it was. But the fact of the matter is, it's going to be fun. Sixers have been fun. Thybulle is amazing. His talk about anticipation. His whole game defensively anticipation. The guy's unbelievable. Never seen anything like it. But they'll be fun, folks.
Yeah.
May and June will be fun. I hope they get to the finals. We'll see.
All right, over under on how many stick to Eagles comments now we're going to get on.
I know. Tough crap. Come on, we like to have fun, folks.
That's right. Let's have fun. Let's bask. Exactly. All right, man. That's going to be it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. Thanks as always to our producer Hunter Brody. You can catch his work on YouTube. It's called Sports Talk with Broads. Check him out on Twitter @Broads81 and @BroadsMedia. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.